Hey everyone, welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul. So, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go ahead and say this again, even though, as you can see here, spoiler alert, I've unlocked the next tier of characters. I've actually had to, more or less, go back in time, because my recording for my duel against Marik got pretty corrupted. So, I'm gonna have to go ahead and take him on again. So, yeah. It was the same situation that happened with strings, where pretty much the first half of the duel was basically what happened. I think it was out of sync, and yeah, it was out of sync, and there was no sound. Just in general, it was just not a good recording. So I just had to throw out the first 5 minutes of that. It happened again now, and I wasn't really too happy with the recording to begin with. So I figured, why the hell not? I'll just do it over. I'm gonna go ahead and take on Marik Ishtar, the leader of the ghouls. I've got a pretty interesting deck this time around. I put a lot more thought into it than I have maybe the last two previous decks. I'm using a fire deck, as you can see by the fact that I have here Molten Destruction, which is pretty interesting because the strongest monsters... Whoops, don't want to end my turn. The strongest monsters for fire monsters are pretty much just these level 6 monsters that they have, that I have a bunch of. There's nothing really stronger than 250, or 2250. Nothing really strong with that. So I have sort of a beatdown, sort of control deck, or field control deck. So I have like a couple of cards to like destroy the opponent's hand. I have Change of Heart. I was gonna add... I forgot the name of this card. It's the card that when you tribute a monster, you can select your opponent's monster instead. I totally forgot. But basically, it's not in this game, because I haven't seen it. And I also have War of the Decree, so I have I don't know, like 4 traps, 2 of which are War of the Decree itself, I believe. Yeah, you can bring that back, it's whatever. Now, the reason why specifically I'm using a fire deck against Marik per se, I can't really say that I recall the deck that I used against him previously in the first recording. What is that, Trap Hole? Do I want to give up half my life points? Yeah, I'll give up half my life points. Because I'm almost sure he doesn't have anything like any sort of like Mirror Force or anything like that face down, since he probably would have activated during my first attack, so I'm not really too worried about what he's got face down. Yeah, so Marik, well, not entirely Marik, I guess. I mean, he kind of does, because he has a couple of, I guess, water cards, which I know it's kind of odd for me to, for me to associate Marik with water cards, but through strings he has the slime combo, which are all water cards, which I know that probably doesn't really count too much. Yeah, I didn't really have too many fire type monsters to pick from, so I just picked these. I picked Dragon Piper because he has decent defense, and I picked Jigen Bakudan just because it's Jigen Bakudan, and just this guy just because he's on fire. And UFO Turtle's not really that useless, or rather that useful, sorry, aside from bringing himself, but I figured that should be good enough. Especially with Molten Destruction, he'll have 1900 attack. But yeah, anyways, he has a lot of water monsters, and he also has a couple of them in his normal deck, or at least what do you want to call him? Like Evil Marik or whatever. He has quite a couple of them. So I was like, ah, fuck it. That's a close enough of an assumption there, so I'll just go with that. So I just built, fire deck. Which is naturally the opposite of water deck. And this is sort of a theme that I'm gonna carry on into the rest of the tier. So when I face, or when I will face, I've technically already faced it, but since I had to go back in time or whatnot, Marik's getting schooled here. When I face Shoddy, I used a machine deck because his cards are relatively antique-like, I guess, and he's old and lives in like I don't know where the fuck he lives, actually. But I'm assuming, you know, he's not very modern, is what I'm trying to say. So I figured it would make sense to have a machine deck against, and that would be the polar opposite of it. I'm pretty sure I've already talked about this pack. This pack is awesome because it has a very low number of cards, but it also has really good cards like Magician of Black Chaos and Triangle Dragon. You can get Gate Guardian, which isn't that great, but it's probably... I spit on the mic. It's probably the second strongest card in the game, I think. Don't quote me on that. It has this card, which I used to actually win a duel, I think. And it's actually one of my more favorite cards of the older sets, just because I have a lot of fond memories of using it in this game for no good reason. It's basically the same story with Neo the Magic Swordsman, except Neo is a little more useful because he's a local monster. But yeah, and I guess you don't have to wait and find out what kind of decks I use for everyone else, but more or less they're pretty self-explanatory, especially in the current tier, which is tier 4, because I kind of sort of not cheat. What's the word? I get lazy a little. Well, not entirely lazy. Like, it makes sense, but I'll stop being big and just drop it as it is. So I'm gonna use No One Cross Out. The reason I added that to this deck was primarily because I figured, since it's a beatdown deck, one of the things that could possibly stop me are defensive monsters, and also flip effects, which are, you know, very prevalent in this tier, let alone in this entire, you know, meta. So I figured, no woman across, you know, fuck it, I'll activate Widespread Ruin. I figured no one would cross out would help me reanimate that pretty easily, and I decided to go with Widespread Ruin instead of Mirror Force, because hello, it's an explosion. Why would you not have that in a fire-themed deck? That only makes sense, right? I don't really have the strongest cards, but I guess I'll summon Fire guy. I never knew how to say his name. Fire Yaru, I believe is his name. Fire Yaru, and I'll equip him with Salt Ninja. Even though Beautiful Turtle has more attack, it'll be more useful for me for Beautiful Turtle to die than for Fire Yaru to die, because I can just summon another one. And since I only have a bunch of level 5-6 tributes, I want to have as many monsters as I can simply sacrifice it and summon it pretty quickly. I know I'm pretty, sorry, I know I'm being pretty technical this duel, which is something, it's not really my commentative style, I guess. I like to just rant on, talk about a bunch of nonsense, but I figured for at least a decent while, I might as well give it a shot for this game. I mean, one of the reasons that I did it, that's why I have no more cross out. Not using the story. Fire Yaru, and there goes my 2500 attack monster, and I'm stuck here with Dragon Pirate with only 700. The only reason I don't do it for this game particularly is because it's kind of, there's not really too much strategy going on in this era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, there's some, just because the game is extremely slow, so there is some sort of strategy, but there's not like a great depth of it where I'd have to, you know, give an in-depth play-by-play, like, oh yeah, you know, I did this, and then I did that, and I had, like, you know, 5-card combo. Stuff like that doesn't really exist. It's a lot more methodical. So I figured if I were to do that, it would just be really obnoxious and boring. Let alone for something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Where play-by-play is kind of, well, it's obsolete. Well, obsolete's not the right word per se. It's doable now because the game is so quickly and it ends in a couple of turns, and you know there's a lot going on in one turn. It makes a lot of sense to do that, you know, if you're playing with the current meta. But if you're playing an older game, it just makes no sense. Even though I made extremely quick work of Marik Ishtar just now, so you're probably thinking the opposite. But it's alright. I've lost the ultimate deck, but how? Could it be? Is faith on your side? I just had a pretty good deck. I mean, I actually made the deck really quickly, which is pretty funny, because I usually take a lot of time making decks, but I decided to just, you know, sit down real quickly, come up with an idea. I was like, well, I'll make a fire deck. And, yeah, everything just went like clockwork after that. But yeah, this has been Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul. I hope you've enjoyed this sort of return to the past, even though technically it's in current time, but bear with me here. And next time, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming, and I'll see you soon.